Welcome everyone to our March webinar. Great to have everybody here and really excited to bring you another one in our series of webinars, which we started last year. We have them, most of them recorded and available in the members area of the BAA website, which is really exciting. So if there's something you even hear tonight and you want to go back and listen to later on in the week, you can do that, which is awesome. Let's start by acknowledge that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the First Nations and traditional custodians of the land where we live, learn and work. And in Geelong, where Bowen originated and where I'm sitting at the moment, this is the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to the elders, both past and present. And we also thank the traditional owners for the custodianship of the land where you are and where you're coming to us from, and celebrate the continuing culture of the Wadawurrung people and the people of where you are also. And we acknowledge the memory of their honourable ancestors. And we also get to pay homage to our own our ancestors in Tom Bowen, and fortunately we still have Ozzy and Elaine with us too. So we will hopefully hear a little bit more about them shortly. Firstly, just some housekeeping. Just love you to keep your microphones on mute, and in the chat, add your name and where you're from. Gives us a bit of an idea of where everyone's coming from, which is awesome. And we'll have questions at the end for Farida. And so just save them up and I'll invite you to ask them. We can, if you ask them as we go, I can save them up and hold them back for a little while. All right. You can also send me topic suggestions via a reply email to any of the emails you get from me for these events. So if there's something that comes up you'd really like to know more about, feel free to send that through to me. Okay, on to a special announcement. For those who haven't heard, we are going to be running a conference next year. The BAA are going to be running our 5th International Bowen Conference. The theme being Bowen from Roots to Renewal, Shaping the Future of Bowen Therapy. We really would like to invite everyone to join us from the 1st to the 4th of May 2006 in Geelong, which is really exciting. We've got our venue organised, and there's a beautiful space right near the Botanic Gardens in Geelong, which is a really fantastic place to come and be at. You can jump onto the BAA website, and on the front page, there's a link to register your interest. It'll jump to a page there, and I'll put a link also in the chat shortly. But feel free to talk about that, share it with your friends, encourage lots of people to come through. We really are looking at how we can grow and strengthen our Bowen roots and take it into the future. Now, moving on, we have tonight's topic, Bowen Therapy through an Ayurvedic lens, understanding the supple energies of healing. And who better to talk about that than Farida Irani, one of our amazing BTA trainers, obviously a Bowen Therapist, Ayurveda practitioner and clinical aromatherapist. Farida is a leading health practitioner, as you can see there on the screen. Ayurveda expert, clinical aromatherapist, BTA trainer. She's pioneered Ayurveda aromatherapy and co-runs Subtle Energies, a global recognised wellness brand out of Sydney. Farida provides Bowtech training in Australia, India, Taiwan and Hong Kong, and she really has worked hard to spread the growth of Bowtech Bowen into those areas, which has been fantastic. And she really does actively promote Bowen therapy's integrity, while from her lens integrating Ayurvedic wisdom, and remains dedicated to the research and education. So very pleased to invite Farida to come on, unmute herself and share a screen and tell us all about this topic tonight. Thanks, Farida.
Thank you, Matt, and the BAA team. That was a wonderful presentation that you did very quickly and very efficiently, especially, just let me see the new speaker. I'll just put it on speaker. Yes. So thank you, Matt, for introducing me and my passion for all these years since the early 90s that I started. Can you see me, Matt?
Yes, I can. Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So I can only see half of myself, but that's all right. So that's okay, as long as everyone can see me and hear me.
Yes. Have you started sharing your screen yet, or will you do that shortly?
I'll do it shortly, but I just wanted
Excellent.
to say, what I want to say is Bowtech is very, very close to my heart. And there are many, many offshoots now. When anything gets institutionalized, this always happens in all organizations. You do get people who come, and everyone who talks of Bowen, whether they are breakaway groups or whether they are Bowen groups or whether they are Bowtech groups, everybody has learned from Ozzy and Elaine. Ozzy will himself tell you how Tom Bowen, when he met him all those years ago, shook hands with him. And when Ozzy said, Mr. Bowen, I would like to come and learn from you, Ozzy was told by Mr. Bowen, Mr. Bowen said he didn't speak much from what Ozzy says. He was a man of few words, but he scanned people and he said, I will let you know. I will speak to my secretary, the lovely Rin that he was referring to. And he said, I will get back to you. And the gentleman who introduced Ozzy also said, I would like to come along, Mr. Bowen. And he said no to him. So that shows that Tom knew who he would be choosing. And yes, there were others who were helping him, but they did not document anything. It was Ozzy and Elaine who documented it all. And Ozzy was telling us how frustrated he got, and he told Mr. Bowen, I want to leave. And Mr. Bowen said, no, just go and sit in the waiting room and talk to all the clients there. Talk to them. And that's how Ozzy felt. There is something here which I have to stick to and trust. And that's how he kept documenting. And Tom would tear it off and then he would document again. And that's how his journey began. And today, yes, Tom Bowen gave us this wonderful gift, which he says a gift from God. He gave it to Ozzy and Elaine, but it was Ozzy and Elaine who took it to the world as per Mr. Bowen's wish, and they taught it. And now it is in over 40 countries. And I remember when we did major conferences in 2006 and 2009, and we've done very many others since then, international Ayurveda and yoga conferences, we always had a Bowen stall. And at one of those conferences, we had a lovely Aborigine. He was not an elder then, now he's an elder. He was just a young man who spoke. And everyone came out of the workshop saying, oh, Farida, Mr. Bowen learned it from an Aborigine. And I checked with Ozzy, and I even checked with our instructor. Um, Gee, I'm going blank on her name. uh, Wood. What's she's my
Robin.
Robin, yes.
Robin
Sorry,
Wood.
you go blank. I'll go with my aid. But Robin Wood also knew Mr. Bowen. And even Ozzy said no. He just said it's a gift from God. They don't know of any Aboriginals teaching him. However, he must have gone to libraries. There was no God Google then. But he must have gone to libraries because from what I can see, a lot of the Bowen procedures, a lot of the Bowen moves are very close to the marma points that we say in Ayurveda. And marmas are pranic centers. They are pranic centers which we have, like how we have puncture points, acupressure points, we have these very vital pranic centers where there is a flow of energy, where there are junctures, and most of our Bowen moves, and I will show some diagrams to you, are very close to that. So maybe he did some research. And my professor, Professor Dr. P.H. Kulkarni, they had met at the conferences with Ozzy and Elaine, who were our VIP guests always. And Professor said, this is truly a marma chikitsa. Marma chikitsa, chikitsa means treatment, and treatment on the marmas. So that is what I'm going to talk about tonight to give you a further insight into what is Bowen. But even if we don't have all these interpretations, even if we don't give you, like, Margaret and Anne, they do the mind body Bowen, and John Wilkes has his own workshop, and we give you all these insights, and I do it from an Ayurveda angle. I have taught people who don't even know English at times. I have taught people who don't know any of this. It is their hands. And this is what I've written in this book of mine, which I wrote in 2000. I authored in 2000, called The Magic of Ayurveda, in conjunction with other healing sciences. And in that, I have said that if there is a natural calamity or disasters, and we are going through that right now in this time and age, in this decade, and treat people. And that's all that you need. So it is truly a wonderful science that has been given to us. And it is a very special science. And Bowtech is the original Bowen technique. So we don't have to go further into looking for more, because all the tools, all the spanners have been given in Bowtech. So there are people who want to know more. There are people who say, oh, but why do we have to do the same old thing? Sorry, even doctors have to go for their ongoing education programs to fine tune. And fine tuning is very, very important, because we get into wrong habits. And a lot of people do get into wrong habits, even ourselves. So we check ourselves when we meet at instructors' meetings. And I would really recommend that, please, at least once in a year, or maybe once in 2 years, go ahead and do the fine tuning of the basic work, because it is very important. And when people come to me for the fine tuning, in fact, we just had a prac review. They all said, wow, we did get a lot out of it. So please do consider that always. Now, let me get into what I mean by understanding Bowen through an Ayurveda lens. I'm going to share the screen, otherwise time will just, I'll keep rattling and time will go really fast. So shall I share the screen with you, Matt?
Yeah, go for it, Farida. That you
Okay,
should be
so
able to.
I'm going to share the screen. Uh-huh. Okay, so there we go.
Yeah,
Oh,
just get to press play now, do you?
yeah, there it is, play. All right,
Lovely.
so let me just go into the first one. Understanding Bowen from an Ayurveda lens. This is Lord Dhanuvantari. It's no man sitting out there. It's an energy. It's a Shakti, symbolizing good health, wellness. So if we follow the ideal lifestyle that Ayurveda offers, that Bowen offers, besides doing the Bowen, people should be given homework. As practitioners, it is very important for us to give people a lifestyle, a dinacharya, or a daily routine in between treatments, looking at their diets, looking at their lifestyles, looking at giving them even the Bowtech Ease. to use as homework, making sure that they follow the 3 Ws, making sure they follow the exercises. So, as practitioners, if we could give them these skills, then when they come back, and very important to write down everything, then we could all be like Lord Dhanuvantari, the Lord of medicine in Ayurveda. Ayurveda is beyond religions. And what does Ayurveda mean for those who don't know? Now it's become a buzzword, but many people didn't know in the early 90s when I was really, my professor used to come here on a regular basis every year. And I'll tell you a wonderful story about that as well. How he is the one who planted the seed into my head, why we should call it a marma chikitsa, and how it balances, how Bowen balances the elements. Now, Ayu means life, and Veda means science. It's a science of life, it's a lifestyle. But in its simplicity lies its complexity, as is always the case. Even with Bowen, we say the less the better applies. It is 5,000 years in written texts and over 40,000 years in oral traditions. Now, nobody has sat and counted 40,000. What it's trying to say is it is from time immemorial that this time-tested science has been around, like the TCM, you know, the traditional Chinese medicine. These are sister sciences. Ayurveda and yoga are sister sciences, but even TCM is very similar. And now, 5,000 years ago, our planet was going through the same cycle as we are going through today. What is that cycle? We have disrupted the elements. We are made up of air, water, ether, fire, earth. And the nature, the planet, the universe is made up of air, water, ether, fire, earth. And 5,000 years ago, in the name of technology, in the name of advancement, what did we, and in the name of development, we polluted the waters, we polluted the air, we polluted the earth. And what did we do? By doing that, we disturbed ourselves. Why? Because we are made up of the same elements that nature is made up of. And by disrupting the elements in the name of all this technology and advancement and development, right now, as I'm speaking, there are more and more people protesting over. There's this beautiful bay that we have in Mumbai, and they want to break open the bay and they want to build a jetty. Now, we get very bad storms there in the monsoon season, very heavy. And if they break that open, and this is just 2 lanes from where my mother's place is, we are going to have a big, big flooding happening. But they're doing it in the name of development, just as they have cut down trees across from me right here in West Pennant Hills, 3,100 trees, ironbark and blue gum trees have been destroyed in the name of development in our beautiful Cumberland State Forest. And they are even planning to sell parts of the forest. We are protesting. Well, I'm sorry, but a lot of our politicians are in the pockets of our developers. So there's but we still have to keep on fighting. Why? Because they don't realize that by disrupting nature, we are disrupting the ecosystem. We are disrupting ourselves. And there's a wonderful YouTube on this, which is Nature Speaks. If you can look at Nature Speaks, it's all Julia Roberts and all the famous actors and all becoming one of the elements and talking as an element. It's been around for a while. It's very interesting. So you can watch it. Now, they had a conference 5,000 years ago when this happened in the Himalayan caves. And they gave, all the sages, the experts, the physicians got together in the Himalayan caves. And they gave us this understanding that we are interdependent on nature And if we are interdependent on nature, we have to respect nature because we are disrupting our own elements. And that is why there is total chaos in the world right now. Look at all the people who are heading a lot of our countries. They are also confused. And look at all the unnecessary wars that we are having. Why is it happening? Because the mind is disrupted. And in Ayurveda, we lay great emphasis on the mind. And what does Bowen do? Bowen also works not just on the body, but Bowen works on the mind as well. So the work we are doing is very special work. We have to understand that. Now, these experts, when they got together, they gave us tools, they gave us herbs, they gave us diets, they gave us aromatics, they gave us yoga, meditation, cosmetics. They gave us tools, and very cleverly, they instilled those tools into the culture and made some of it religious, like, oh, on so and so day, you have to eat this diet. And everyone did it because it was in the name of religion. However, it was also due to seasonal changes, preparing the body for winter, giving them warming foods, soupy foods. They gave them a diet and they made sure that the diet was not acidic. Nowadays, with all the stress happening in the world, people are resorting to fast foods. People are resorting to diets which are highly acidic. What does that do? The combination of stress and acidity leads to manifestation of diseases, of all our elements going out of order. So you don't have to be an Ayurveda expert or an Ayurveda practitioner, but if you can just look at people's diets, what they are eating, what they are following, ask them to eat simple foods or ask them to consult someone who understands that. Also, meditation is very important. People don't realize even meditating for 2 minutes, meditating for 3 minutes, just going within yourself. You don't have to sit there and fight your thoughts. You don't have to meditate for 1 hour. But if you can concentrate on the third eye, if you can call upon the divine light, if you can make sure that they penetrate through your crown and they go into the trillions of cells that we are made up of, each cell has a memory chip. Each cell will absorb affirmations. There was a great yogi called Paramahansa Yogananda. And Paramahansa Yogananda, who wrote Autobiography of a Yogi, it's not about preaching. It is about how the yogis, different yogis, projected themselves. He even talks about Christ being a yogi. And when you do affirmations, what are you doing? Just by saying, I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm positive, I'm peaceful, I'm infinite spirit, I'm endless bliss. If you could just give that much to your clients to keep saying it, and they can say it 3 times loud, 3 times soft, 3 times in a whisper, 3 times mentally, and then concentrating on the third eye, looking gently upward, because that's your connecting to your superconscious, that's your spiritual eye. And if you could just sit and just meditate upon just those thoughts, I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm positive, I'm peaceful, I'm joyful. There will be no unhealthy cells in my body. You can say that. I'm infinite spirit, I'm endless bliss. It's very simple. You make up your own affirmations and you say it every day. Something that suits you, something that you relate to. And if you can instill that within yourself and even ask your clients to do it, they'll feel the difference. And they even gave us cosmetics, these experts. Why? Because cosmetics make you look good. When you look good, you feel good. And have you ever seen people when you do the upper respiratory TMJ procedures? It's almost like a facelift. When people get up, you will see, at least I have. So please observe. Observation of your clients is very, very important. Writing down every aspect of what they are feeling. Have you come across clients who you just do the first two moves and the whole body starts working, especially when there is trauma? Ozzy has always said that when someone has come with a lot of trauma, you just do the first two moves of BRM1, moves 1 and 2, and leave them for 10 minutes. Come back. If there is a reaction, you don't touch them. But if there is no reaction, you reinstate the 1 and 2 followed by 3 and 4. Now, some people say, oh, we don't need to reinstate. We'll continue working. No, reinstate. Ozzy always says that. Why? Because you are first, you set up the body to relax. Remember, where you do the 1 and 2, besides the meridians, there are important marma points. We have the Manipura chakra, the navel chakra, where 72,000 rivers of energy, which we call nadis. Nadis are subtle channels. Nada means vibration. Nadi or Nadi means rivers. 72,000 according to the yogis. They converge right in your navel, and you are working on that. So the whole energy goes through, besides addressing the kidneys, besides addressing the adrenals, besides addressing the marmas, all the nadis are being addressed. Also, that particular chakra is connected to the fire element. So it starts warming up the body. That's why people feel a lot of warmth sometimes. Sometimes they feel cold because there is a trauma being released through that chakra. And there are very important marma points there as well. And I'll show you that very quickly. Now, Ayurveda has brought to the world 8 branches of medicine thousands of years ago. They had internal medicine, pediatrics, toxicology, ophthalmology, surgery, psychiatry, rasayana, rejuvenation, vajikaran, vitality, and virility. All this is encompassed, and surgery was very much there. And plastic surgery was first initiated by Ayurveda, by the great surgeon Sushrut. Why? Because there used to be capital punishment. And so they used to reconstruct the nose, reconstruct the tongues, because sometimes tongues were cut off, hands were cut off, ears were cut off, so that they would not recreate, especially the architecture or whatever they had built. It was very cruel. It was a cruel, I mean, even the world is still cruel in a different way, but in those days they had it. So he introduced, and he has been acknowledged in the modern day book of surgery, the great surgeon Sushrut. And the Germans, they enhanced plastic surgery further, reading about Sushrut. And even the instruments used were very similar. However, do you know, sometimes doing Bowen, we are doing a kind of a mini surgery? I'll tell you of a classic example in India. When I was teaching there at one of my classes, I still do, but now I've got beautiful instructors teaching. I only do the assessments and the advanced levels there, like the SPB 1 and 2, and my instructors do the rest. However, at that time when I was teaching probably module 3 and 4, because I've been teaching there since the early 90s, and we still do voluntary works over there, the blind. Look up the bowentherapyindia.com website, and you'll see how we do a lot of voluntary works there as well. Now, soon after I had finished my class, one of my young practitioners, she met one of her friends who is he's a steward in an airline, and he had lost his voice. He had experienced Bowen with her for his lower back, which was giving him, long hours of walking around and standing, and lifting heavy stuff, serving people, lower back problems. Now he actually lost his voice. and he was penciled in for a surgery because he had black nodules all around his thyroid. She offered to do Bowen on him because she had just learned the upper respiratory TMJ and she was very excited. So she did it on him, and the next day he was expectorating blood. And he was really scared. So he ran to the hospital. They did, a scan or MRI or whatever. And do you know what? All those black nodules had gone. And he got his voice back. And he has given us a testimonial. Unfortunately, he said, I don't have time to write, and he has recorded it, and I don't know where I've kept it, but this is a fact. This is amazing. Just as my professor, when he used to come here year after year, and he actually had uh, a lady coming to him for consult, because after we would have the classes on Ayurveda, we would have consultations. And what I learned sitting with him, Professor Kulkarni, no books can teach in the consultations. And this elderly lady came and she had neuralgia. So of course he said, "Oh, Farida, ask her to do pulling, and you can, and that would not interfere with your Ayurveda work. We are very big on treating through the what we call the gates. The gates are nothing but your orifices. We are very big on that, and even in Ayurveda, we are addressing those gates. All right. So he said, ask her to do, he asked her to do pulling. Pulling is holding, say, sesame, black seed sesame in your mouth. And that helps the nerves for 10 minutes. It also helps to enhance the antibodies if you do that every morning before you brush your teeth. Especially when I travel, I always do that. I swish it around, I hold at least for 5 minutes, and then I spit it out. And invariably, due to pressurized atmosphere with long travels, I get blood in my gums. That stops after doing about 3, 4 days of just this simple technique, holding it. That's black seed sesame. So he asked her to do that, not because of blood, but because of the nerves, the circulation. And then he told me to do the Shirodhara, that's pouring of the oil on the forehead. And then I said, with due respect to you, Dr. Sahib, I used to call him Dr. Sahib. I said, can I please do Bowen on her? Now he didn't know much about Bowen on that at that time. This was in the early 90s. And I said, can I do Bowen on her? And he said, yes, of course, go ahead. And he walked away. I did Bowen on her. And I told her, if you feel good, come next week. She phoned me and she said, I would like to come. And she came. And when I started on her, just doing the 1, 2, 3, 4, she kept saying, there is a lot of energy going around my tailbone. Now, if it had continued for more than 20, 25 minutes, what do you do as Bowen practitioners? You don't touch the body. That is it for the day. But this went on just for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So I asked her, I said, in your consultation, you didn't say anything about what's happening to, you like in the reproductive area or the uterus or, the bladder. She said, no, there's nothing happening. She just said there's nothing. Anyways, she came back after I did the coccyx because this energy was going there. I just did, after having done 1, 2, 3, 4, I did the coccyx on her. After that, reaction stopped for about 10 minutes. And I sent her away after doing the coccyx, prone and supine. Didn't even touch her face. And guess what? After 6 months, when she came back to Professor, because Professor came back after 6 months, she said, by the way, Farida, my leaky bowel and my leaky bladder stopped. Those were her words. And I'm given it in my little booklet, the Bowtech Ease booklet. And that's when Professor said, Farida, your Bowen is rectifying the Aparna Vayu. Aparna Vayu is the downward flow of air. And the downward flow of air is the one which controls the flow of the blood, the flow of the urine, the flow of the feces, the flow of the menstrual cycle, the flow of the semen, and the flow of the birth of a child. However, from an Ayurveda angle, we look at that when somebody is incontinent, besides the weak muscles. So obviously, she had a lot of pressure of that Aparna Vayu. And that is why, as soon as the coccyx was done, it rectified it. And I've seen that happen in so many people. So we are truly having a wonderful gift. And that's when I thought, it's balancing the elements. And I did my own research on it. And that is how I started this workshop, Understanding Bowen from an Ayurveda Perspective. And we are actually balancing the elements. In fact, we had a young girl, my daughter, who is also an international instructor, Khurshid, besides being with subtle energies for her work. I'm trying to entice her to become an instructor over here again, but she doesn't have the time. Khurshid actually treated this girl, this young girl who was squint and who had bedwetting. When we did the bedwetting procedure, her eyes shifted and became normal. And when we did the upper respiratory TMJ just to see what happens there, her bedwetting stopped. So see the connection, but we never do it together because Ozzy always says you'll confuse the body. So we respect that and we don't do TMJ and the coccyx together, but we did it on separate occasions. So what did it do? It balanced, just doing the TMJ actually balanced the Aparna Vayu, the downward flow of air, and doing the coccyx again balanced the upward flow of air, which is the Udana Vayu. And that is how you are balancing the elements. Now, the three aims of Ayurveda are preserving good health, maintaining good health, and prevent disease. It is a preventative preserving science. And we have the marma chikitsa, the nadis, and the chakras. And we also have what we call the objectives of Ayurveda: dharma, which is social and moral rules to respect everyone's space, which is very important when you're doing a consultation. Don't pry too much, let the person speak. Kama, understanding. Kama means, artha. Artha means meaning. Why are they saying this? What does it mean? Write it down. Try to understand it. Kama is desires. People have desires. We in Ayurveda say that it's a very modern open science. If you have a desire to go and have a cup of coffee, by all means have it. Do not overindulge. That is what we tell our clients. And I'll never forget when we had one of our major conferences where we had 35 international speakers, and there was this lovely integrated medicine doctor. He asked Professor when he came for a consult because he was a big man. And Professor said, he said, how much should I eat? So doctor said, show me your palms. And he said, put your palms like this. And he said, and his palms were smaller than his body. And doctor said, that's how much you should eat. He said, can I fill it up? He said, no, flat. That's how you would keep, if you eat according to the quantity of your palm, we call it anjali. An means food, jali means to hold. If you eat that way, you will keep 1/3 of your abdomen because this is the size of your abdomen. In Bowen, we always say whatever measurements we take, and I'm very big on measurements, we call it anguli in Ayurveda. Anguli means finger widths. There are marmas, which are the pranic centers, which can be a fist width big, they can be a finger width bit, they can be a half finger width bit. And in Bowen, we always say, when you measure according to the person's fingers. See the similarity in what we do in Ayurveda and what we do in Bowen. There's a reason for it, very important. And then we have moksha. Moksha meaning if you follow all this, if you follow a good lifestyle, if you follow a good diet, if you get Bowen done regularly, but give them homework, then and if they meditate, they have a good physical activity of some sort, then they do not have to worry about them coming back to this world. However, I would like to come back. I'm too attached to this world not to come back. Now, we have air, space, fire, water, earth. And we also have tissues, rasa, that is, I'll just say the English ones. Plasma, they say in Ayurveda, they say when you eat, you first nourish the plasma, then you nourish the blood, then you nourish the muscle, then you nourish the adipose tissue, then you nourish the bone, then you nourish the marrow, and finally you nourish the reproductive tissue. If your diet is wrong, you have a weak reproductive tissue. And if you have a reproductive tissue, you will procreate weak babies. Very important to say that to your clients. Balance through proper diet, exercise, rejuvenation, mental peace is of utmost importance. And very many times, especially I get a lot of Indian clients who want to conceive. I had a girl who had rheumatoid arthritis. She could barely carry herself. I said, if you cannot carry yourself, how are you going to carry a child? So we have to look at all that when we treat people. First, nourish their tissues, and Bowen can help you in that. Besides making them do the alkaline diet, we always talk about alkaline diet. So stress on that, emphasize. And in Ayurveda, we talk of warm, soupy foods because we are warm beings. Having cold foods constrict the channels. Having warm foods dilate the channels. And then, all these feces, urine, sweat are the malas or the excretions, but they are very important. And how many times when you do Bowen, you will have people who will tell you they don't sweat, and that's not healthy. And Bowen helps them to sweat. Bowen, there are people who come in and they say they haven't been to the toilet. Little babies, I've treated many babies with Bowen, as all of you must have. And, babies don't take long. What happens? Very often I just treat them, and then the mother or the grandmother will say, oh, Farida, now she's pooing every day. You must have heard it. All of you must have heard it. Why? Because we are balancing all the elements, as I said, the downward flow of air, the upward flow of air. And that is so important because they need to poo daily. The doctors say, oh, it's okay, but no, it's not okay. They need to excrete. So it is very important. And there's a whole science behind this, which I'm not getting into. And then the elements form the doshas. The air and ether element is vata. The fire and water element is pitta. And the water and earth element is kapha. So vat, pit, kapha. You would have one, we have all of them, but we have one more predominant than the other. So if someone vatic comes in, vat is light, dry, and cold. So that is the attributes. The vatic person is very creative. We have all the elements, but if you are predominantly air and ether, it's more of an ethereal energy. And you'll see when the person walks in, the person will look very, very ethereal, or the person will have very light, pale skin. Remember, Ayurveda was in the days when beauty was considered big, voluptuous women. All right. Even if you look at, the Roman goddesses, they are big, they are voluptuous. And so are the goddesses that are portrayed in India in the Khajuraho temples, big, voluptuous. So when in those days, when they saw skinny people, they didn't approve them much. So it's also the time that Ayurveda comes from. Now, beauty is skinny. However, Vata, air and ether energy, is about movement, light, dry, and cold. So when there is too much of Vata and you'll see the person coming in, they'll be talking a lot, they'll be making a lot of movements. You would write that down. And the Bowen will help. And what we use is we use opposite attributes to balance that. Now, Pitta is fire and water. Fire is hot, water is wet. And you will see these kind of people, they will be very fiery. So what would you recommend to them besides Bowen? You would tell them to have cooling foods. You would tell them to meditate more, to balance themselves. Even the Vatic person will sit for 1 hour in the toilet one day, the next day out in 5 minutes. The Kaphic personality, which is water and earth, water is cold and moist. Earth is slow and heavy. So they will tend to put on weight very easily. So you can, and their skin texture will be clammy if there is a disorder. The Vata will be very dry. The Pitta will be reddish. So these are the little things that you can see, observe, and write down. And then you can look at how it is improving by doing the Bowen. And so I'll very quickly say Vata governs movements, respiration, circulation, nervous system. So imbalance leads to pain because it's dry, pain, reproductive disorders, nervous disorders, stress, dryness, digestive problems, depression, all comes from the nervous system. Pitta, enzymes, it governs hormones, it governs digestive fires. Especially the first two moves are absolutely balancing the digestive fires. The metabolism, intelligence, imbalance leads to indigestion, hot flushes, skin rash, heartburn, anger, heated conditions. Whereas Kapha governs digestion, lymphatic system, fluids, lubrication, uh, joints, organs, synovial fluids, for example. It actually works on the skeletal system, the musculoskeletal. Imbalance leads to phlegm, congestion, obesity. So they tend to put on weight. It also depends whether they're perimenopausal for women or menopausal, they will stagnate. Now, for example, I am a classic case of being a Pittic personality. You can see it in me. And my second is Vata, and the third is very little Kapha. When I was a little girl, I did not walk till I was 4 years old. My father was a great believer in natural therapies. So he took me to a place in India on the western coast called Bimpore. Somebody told him. And he had studied massage, he had studied hypnotherapy, and as a hobby. He was a corporate person, but these were his hobbies. And unfortunately, there was no Bowen then. But he took me to this place where he used to bury me in the sand because the minerals of the sand were so powerful there that apparently I started walking. And he used to make herbal oil decoctions and he used to massage me with those. And my grandmother used to massage my hair because I had two little rat's tails. I had very little hair. So my Kaphic energy was very scant. So they built it up. Bowen does that as well. Just as Bowen does detoxification, I've seen that happen time and time again, where it takes you through the full panchakarma. Sometimes people come and they will tell you they were feeling very sick. In fact, I had dislocated my arm a fortnight ago, and Khurshid gave me Bowen. This was on a Sunday. On the Monday, I could not even walk. I could not get out of bed. I think I had a temperature. I also had motions. What was the body doing? The body was detoxifying because I had traveled quite a bit. So this was just an excuse. And of course, it worked wonderfully. But I had a full detoxification happening on me through just the Bowen. And this is what I tell people. Just as when I was doing my internship in Ayurveda in Pune, and there were 9 Ayurveda doctors. And when I was doing some tactile work with them, one lady came in and she had a very acute frozen shoulder. She said, I can't even put my bra strap on. All the 9 doctors looked at me and said, Hey, Farida, what can your Bowen do? And I was a bit nervous. I said, I hope it works. So I put the upper stoppers. I did the shoulder procedure because it was very acute. As we were talking, she said, Hey, look at this. I can put my hands behind. This is a miracle. And they said, How did that happen? We spend 14 to 15 days. They make rice puddings with milk, and then they patent called the podis. And they do those treatments every day. I didn't have to do that. So they were very amazed. And this is the gift and power that we have of Bowen. However, I think what's the time, Matt?
You've probably got 5 minutes, Farida.
Okay?
Yeah, what gonna
Okay,
work?
I can go on, but I have to keep
I know you can.
time.
You're a champion.
Okay. And I told you that, we've got a prakriti or a
Yeah.
constitution, and we talk of a blueprint. In Bowen, we talk of the ideal blueprint. All right. Now, what is this ideal blueprint? And very often I hear practitioners say, Oh, we are taking you back to your blueprint. Hey, there may be babies who are born with abnormal blueprints. So be very mindful when you say that. All right. Now, I was born with very little kaphic energy for my muscular skeletal structure. That is why I wasn't walking. My father used the oils. And we have a wonderful tool right now called the Bowtech Ease. And in fact, I receive a lot of positive feedbacks on it. And we have specifically designed that Bowtech Ease in a way whereby you can use it to give it as homework, because the oils in it are, the base oils of the ashwagandha, which is the Withania somnifera, and the black seed sesame are the base oils. Never ever use neat oils, please. There are many companies promoting neat oils. We do not. And in the base oils, which are rich in essential fatty acids, which are equally good for your body and your nervous system and your musculoskeletal system. We have got the oils of kunze, the black pepper, the ginger, the peppermint, the camphor. We have created a synergy whereby it's not too warming, not too cooling, and they are highly, highly antimicrobial. All essential oils are antimicrobial, antibacterial, antifungal, and antiviral because they are the defense mechanism of the plant. So they are medicinal to a greater or lesser degree. We have used what we call the Rambos in the Bowtech Ease. And I only did that because Ozzy was limping many years ago in the 90s. He had traveled and he was limping. And I gave him what we had, aches and pains in those days. And I said, just use this. I went away after 3 months. He said, What was that, Farida? I said, What happened? He said, it gave me instant relief. I was traveling and I was just applying. Can I have that for Bowen? I said, No, I'll create a similar formula for you because this is a subtle energies one. And I created it. And I purposely used kunze, which is a very powerful, besides the eucalyptus, kunze is a very powerful bush oil, Australian bush oil, which is also very good for staphylococcus, the golden staph, as we call it. And this oil is highly anti-inflammatory. In fact, just today I received uh, an email. I mean, I received many, but today was from a Bowen practitioner, Ben Hamilton. And Ben sent me this lovely, which I'll read very quickly and then I'll end. And he has said, hi, his client has said, do you have two more bottles of the Bowtech Ease? It is absolutely wonderful. I've had a very severe chest infection, as you know, for over 2 weeks now, had x-rays and multiple antibiotics and just given more antibiotics on Wednesday. It has turned into bad bronchitis where I still have a dreadful moist cough and lots of wheezing and worse at night. It's been horrible and frightening being so breathless. Well, I finally used the Bowtech Ease for the first time yesterday. I put some drops into my chest area and on the tip of my nose and upper lip, followed instructions after first reading up on all the information I could find. I didn't massage the oil in because in Bowen we say when you've had Bowen, do not massage. So he's followed the instructions. As they said, to just put drops on the area needed and spread it lightly. I've done that also on my lower back and hip area. Within minutes of using it on my chest and top of nose and upper lip, my chest and nose became clear and I wasn't coughing up all that muck. My lower back and right hip was also a little more comfortable. Also, I fell over on Thursday afternoon on the wet grass and mud whilst taking the bin out, and I hurt my right knee and toe on my right foot. Oh my God, he's really a calamity, Jane. So I put the oil onto my right knee area where it was so painful and hard to walk. The oil reduced the pain dramatically, thank goodness, and I haven't been limping. I'm using it as I need it at present, every few hours or longer. Last night, I also put some drops around my navel because I always say, put it around your navel. Why? Because remember, you have got those 72,000 subtle channels there. And in Ayurveda, we emphasize on that. As they said, that can help with sleep. I'm always a very poor sleeper. Last night, I did sleep a little better in that I didn't wake up to go to the loo multiple times like I usually do. I didn't need to go to the loo at all. And I did sleep just a little longer than usual. I'm so happy with all these positive results from using the oil. Thank you so much. Sorry for the long comment. I just wanted to give you my positive feedback on it from my using it. Now, this is something which is an adjunct to the Bowen work that was done by this practitioner, Ben. So you can help your clients besides helping yourselves, because if we make sure that if you buy, say, a 1 liter of it, and if you decant it into 50 mils bottles, which we can supply, but even paying for those empty bottles, dark brown bottles, this we do it for the Bowen Academy, and we pay a royalty to the Bowen Academy, of course, every quarterly. However, we have a small margin, very small margin for ourselves, but the Bowen practitioners will get a big margin to play with because if they decant it and use that 50 mils, which would normally cost them $25 as a practitioner, it would just cost them $12, $13. And they can sell it for 25, 30, 35, whatever they choose to. So this is like your little business together with your Bowen. So I just wanted to say that. And I'm running this Understanding Bowen, which I take it all around the world. And I'm even right now taking it to Austria. I've done it in Germany. I've done it in Canada. I've done it in America. And I'm doing it here on the 5th and 6th of April. So if anyone, last time when I did this workshop in 2023, I did it at NICM, which is the National Institute of Complementary Medicine, because now we have an Ayurveda research chair and I'm on the advisory board. So NICM gave me the beautiful space free of charge. And they've again said, you can have it, but I need to have more numbers to be able to book that amazing space, which is affiliated to the University of Western Sydney. So thank you so much for letting me talk. I could go on forever, but I don't want to. So thank you, Kath and Matt, and uh, is it Carolyn or Catherine?
Carmen.
What's that?
Carmen.
Carmen, Carmen. Oh, I'm so sorry. All these wonderful people, they put in a lot of effort into BAA. And if you are not a member of BAA, I would recommend please be, and please attend the conference next year because that will bring us together. It's a bonding. We had our very first international one in 2000, I remember. That's where all of us connected, Margaret, Desley. We were all together with Ozzy and Elaine. That time they were teaching. And believe me, the camaraderie that comes out of it and the support you will get, the friendships you will make is words cannot express it. So we have to support BAA, we have to support this conference, and the icing on the cake will be if our founders who are still alive and who I give full credit to, my loyalty is to them and to Bowtech. They might be there and you'll get an opportunity to see them and meet international ones like I'm sure people from India, Hong Kong, Taiwan, they all will come, and Europe and England and America and Canada. All right, and you'll hear interesting speakers.
They can even say hello to you, Farida.
What's that?
They can even say hello to you too.
Thank you, thank you.
Now, are there any questions before we jump off? Is that brought up something that you're curious about? You'd like to know a little bit more about? Just put something in the chat. I already see people already looking forward to a conference and also sharing their experiences of Bowtech Ease as well, which is awesome. It's great. Freda, what I love about your use of Bowtech Ease and it's that homework aspect is your clients have something to do between treatments, isn't it? And I think it's really important that
Yeah.
no matter what we're doing with our clients, we are giving them something to do between treatments. So whether it's some exercises or some stretches or the use of Bowtech Ease or something like that, that there's something that they're doing and so they're sort of actively involved in their recovery.
Absolutely. Make people take responsibility besides doing the wonderful Bowen work. Then they will see a change. As I said, Ayurveda is a lifestyle. And in Ayurveda, we call it dinacharya, a daily routine, whereby people can create little daily routines for themselves. They don't have to be long stretched meditations, long stretched exercises, simple, small bits which will help them with their daily life, which will help them to recover faster. Even doing, exercise physio is fine, because they are not. I always say, people ask me, can I go for physio? I say, as long as you are doing just exercises and not letting them do tactile work on you, that's absolutely fine because they need rehab, especially after the age of 50. We all do. We all do. So we have all these facilities and we should avail of them.
A question that Kath has, what is the shelf life of Bowtech? How does Bowtech Ease?
Bowtech Ease can stay for many years, actually. We just have to put an expiry, but it can stay if it is kept away from light
Yeah.
and heat.
Yeah, so that's the reason why you have it in the brown
Brown
bottle.
bottles and away from light and heat.
Yeah.
and I carry it as first aid. I've got my old people during COVID. You have no idea how many people benefited with it.
Yeah.
And we used to give it free to all the elderly. And they've become very addicted. Of course, now I tell my practitioners, you should charge them now. I just say to them, go to my practitioners. So practitioners can sell it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I loved about your presentation too, Farida, is that your Ayurvedic perspective, but the action you take with your Bowen is Bowtech Bowen. Like there's often, which I think is really important to recognize that we are still using the fundamental skills that we learn in our training. We're just using that overall sort of different view of the body, isn't it, to work out
Absolutely.
what to do it in and where to do
I
it.
mean, look, we have been given all the spanners. We've been given all the tools. I keep hearing about people saying, oh, so and so is teaching us about scar tissue. Hello, Bowen works on scar tissue. That is why people get pain at times and it becomes worse before it gets better. Because when adhesions break, when calcification breaks, when scar tissue, which has been there for ages, breaks, it is live tissue. And so if they get pain, that is good for them. And people don't realize that they've got all the spanners, including working, especially the little mini Bowen moves and the bursitis move can be used on scar tissues, which are seen. Somebody came to one of my classes and spoke on scar tissues, which was wonderful. And I asked the person, show me, what do you do? They were doing exactly that. That was taught by an offshoot. Fine, you have it. But no, it's our mistake. We have to emphasize more on it when we teach. Unfortunately, there's not enough time in the day sometimes. So we instructors need to emphasize on it more.
Yeah. So tell me, I had a very similar conversation to this next question with Marg Spicer a little while ago, which I think was really important. And it'd be great for everyone to hear how you approach it when you're making the moves and when we're looking at trauma or different things that are coming up in the nadis or the energies that you work with. What sort of pressures do you use? How do you sort of adjust how you're making the moves to help with the bone to do its work rather than this because we can
The
give
less the better. The
yeah
less the better applies. And the pressure can even be a feather touch pressure on people who are very traumatized or if they are going through an emotional upheaval. Normally, when I teach, I always say that Bowen work does not have to be hard, but it should not be wishy washy. It should be well defined. However, if somebody is going through a trauma or if somebody is having a reaction, that's what you're asking about, right?
yeah essentially yeah
If someone is having a reaction, what do? You don't go and, pat the person's back. No, you don't touch them. Why? Because their body is doing the work. I mean, I've had people who also have, their arms moving in Taiwan. We had this girl who had a very bad accident and she had a glass going through her web, here, right here. And do you know she was going on and on and on with the arm just moving? Eventually, she said that later on a piece came out. We had a guy who had 50 tons falling on his head and he had a little, hole here where they had done some surgery and that kept oozing. The wife had just learned one and two, and she had done the head procedure, and a little filament came out from there. Again, that's like a surgery happening and it healed. However, I always say do not touch the body when there is reaction happening. Let the body process the files because by touching, what do? you stop it, you freeze it. It's like a computer, you know, when you're working on a computer and when the files are being processed, what do? You don't touch it because it's being processed. So, am I right in answering that? Am
Yeah,
I?
absolutely. Yeah, because I'm really trying to help the people listening and who watch later that
Yes,
sense of okay, when you're doing your work, and I use in my own mind moves like that. It's like gently with purpose is the
absolutely.
nicer way to think
Absolutely.
about it, you know.
Yes,
Um,
yes. It's the intent.
yeah, and then also when I've got a client on the table, or even before they get on, like giving them permission or letting them know that when something comes up, or if they're feeling something in the body, to let us know, you know. So sometimes it's not always the visible movement that they're happening on the table,
Yes.
but they can tell, oh, I've just felt this. Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah, and sometimes they don't feel anything.
yes, yeah.
Okay. So please, when you do the first four moves, for example, and you walk away, you let them know that I'm not abandoning you.
Mm,
I need your electromagnetic field to do its work because your electromagnetic field expands. I don't want to intrude into your electromagnetic field. And you walk away. And when you come back, you say, if there is a reaction, like even a gentle, I mean, it's not a thumping reaction, make sure you say that.
mm,
It will be very subtle, very gentle palpitation or tingling or warmth. Let me know. If nothing is happening, do not worry. It is still working because what happens is invariably they will say, oh, nothing is happening. That means it's not working. And there's another point, Matt, that I want to make. I've had people who have come to me and they've been to Bowen practitioners and they've said, oh, I was told that after three Bowen techniques, if it's not working, Bowen is not for you. That's a misconception, total misconception. Nobody has ever said that. None of our instructors have ever said that. This is people's interpretations. That is why it is very important for people to go for fine tuning in prac reviews because we tend to forget we are all human and we have our own interpretations coming in. So what may take three treatments for one person may take about a dozen for another, but with intervals and breaks. And also we have to bear one thing in mind, that we have to, besides having a clean atmosphere and all that, we have to protect ourselves. We forget, we give too much, and what happens? We get zapped. We don't see energy, but energy exists. And I've seen people, especially when they do massage, Bowen, we don't do that much, but they go and they throw the energy on the floor like that. What are they doing? That energy sticks on the floor and you walk over it. So very, very important. You can put a bowl of salt water, even if you're not throwing the energy, but make sure you wash your hands and make sure you use, especially right now, sanitizer if you feel that you need to, for infection control as well. And we have a beautiful spray which we call the Aura Protection Mist. And that really helps also after you've treated someone. You can spray it in the room. I spray it on my bed if I go to a hotel room. I'm not trying to sell my wares here, but oils are wonderful protectors. So you can use them. You can vaporize very gentle oils and also make sure that you just, after you've splashed your face, after you wash your hands, cut. You're cutting the energy from your chakras, both front and back, and just sprinkle a little water on your feet, sprinkle a little on your head, sprinkle a little on your face. That way, you are protecting and visualize a beautiful golden white light around you. Be in that cocoon of light, which is your shield of protection through which no negativity enters. Very, very important.
very good. Thank you, Farida. Well, I think we get to call it quits there. We really do appreciate your time and sharing with us all today your expertise.
Thank you.
For our BAA members who are all present, you'll get an email on Wednesday inviting, and we're sharing Farida's workshop that's coming up. So you get information on that. You can sign up for that, which is awesome. There will be the replay of this for our members. Will be out probably towards the end of the week. Knowing the week I've got ahead of me, it'll take me a little while to get through it. But that's come out. We really enjoy being able to share those with you. And do sign up. I'll put the link for the conference to sign up to that, to sign up for your interest, and you get all the updates as we move forward for that as well. So, once again, thank you all for coming. I'm very pleased that most of you have stuck around for a bit of extra time tonight. It's been great. And we will look forward to seeing you next time. Now, a bit of a hint, we have Ali Goward spending some time with us next month and talking about her animal work. So that will be great to look forward to as well. Okay. Good.
Sorry, Matt, who was the other lady in your team? I'm sorry.
Kath and Carmen.
Carmen. I keep thinking of Kath, I know, but Carmen, yes,
Carmen
Carmen.
is our BAA secretary at the moment. Also, we've got a
Yes.
few other team members are on here at the moment. Cherie Marshall is one of our committee members who's been on the night as well. So
Who is that?
Cherie Marshall is one of our committee members. She's been on tonight
REA.
as well. So she's a great member and helps host some fantastic trainings up in the Tamworth area. So,
I think Ella is here too, Ella Lekva.
Yep.
She's here as well.
Yes. So a good group today. So thank you everyone for joining us. We'll say good evening. We'll get you to jump out, and we'll see you again in a month's time, hopefully.